Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is Dr. Kevin. And I'm so happy he said yes to our interview. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. Things couldn't be better. And thank you so much for sharing my message with your audience.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. And I would like to introduce you, of course. With over a decade in program management in the machinery industry, 18 years leading leadership programs at Intel, and 15 plus years as an entrepreneur and executive coach, you are an expert in creating high performance teams, developing personal brands, and transitioning from corporate roles to entrepreneurial success. Welcome to the Inspired Podcast, Dr.
Uh,
Kevin.
It's nice to be here, and Kevin works just fine. I'm very, very informal.
I read this on your I think we called it Twitter once, and now it is X. So I read this, Dr. Kevin, and this is, I hope it's okay, but of
Yeah.
course you have a last name. Yeah, of course. Yes. Okay. What inspired you to move from a traditional program management role to leading leadership programs at Intel and eventually becoming an entrepreneur?
Um, well, I did all my undergraduate work, Carolyn, in engineering and business. Then I went off and did my MBA, and then finally all my doctoral work around organizational leadership and management. And what I found was that was really my passion. I was teaching at multiple universities. I was employed in Intel at the same time, and I had been working in managing, software teams or design teams or marketing teams for different chipsets and products on Intel. It was very exciting. I learned a lot. And one of the requirements at Intel was that you trained uh, about 40 hours a year, right? When you got to a certain level, that was a requirement. And what I found out was I really liked the teaching, I liked the training. So I went back to school, did all my doctoral work around human motivation and engagement. And then there was an opportunity after Intel gives you a sabbatical every 7 years. So every 7 years, you get to take 2 months off, completely disconnect, refresh. And when I came back, they said, how would you like to have a change where you're moving from the technical side over to working on our leadership development program? So I thought, well, this is a good opportunity. It's a passion of mine. Why not take my technical knowledge into the kind of what my friends call the dark side of HR, right? Move from technical over into the HR world. And I did that for managed Intel University for the US for many years. And then the last 6 years, I managed Intel management leadership development for the first and midline programs. And we used to do 2,500 managers and leaders in 10 different countries every year. And when I retired from Intel in 2007 to start my own consulting practice as an entrepreneur, we had just finished training our 40,000th manager.
Oh, maybe it was my connection. Sorry. Okay. Mm.
So
Yeah.
did you get that?
Yes. Thank you so much. Okay. I would suggest we continue with the next question. Can you share a recent success story where your coaching helped a client or team significantly enhance their performance and engagement?
Yeah, so I've been doing executive coaching for many years. I think a great story that I've had recently is I had someone that chief technology officer is working for a company about 400 or 500 people, and he was having some challenges with his delivery, right? How he was viewed. Brilliant guy, really passionate, and we worked on. I put him through a program called Positive Intelligence, I do facilitation of that. We put him through that program, and it was life-changing for him, to the point where he recognized that there wasn't a great connection between his current company and really his values. And he really had this kind of epiphany. And we worked together. And then there was another opportunity where I moved from this smaller company to a company about 1,500 to 1,000 people, or 2,000 people. And he went from having a staff of 80 to a staff of 400. He was brought in as the change agent. He's been working on that probably the last year and a half. And it's been magnificent for him to see the change. So it was a really nice promotion for him, a company that really espouses his values. He's excited every day. He's got great people to work with, and he's really building his resume so that at one point in time, he'll be eligible to be a CEO.
Wow, that's amazing how you helped your client. I love listening to those success stories, of course. In my podcast, it's also called Stories of Change and Success, right? And you mentioned your client is a change agent. I
Yes.
love that word. Mhm. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's have a look at my next question. What are your key strategies for helping individuals transition from corporate roles to becoming effective leaders and entrepreneurs? And what new projects are you excited to launch?
Well, I have a process that I call the 7 Ps of being a successful entrepreneur. And I was hoping to share those with you today and the audience. And I've done a lot of coaching. A lot of my friends, colleagues, associates, people that follow me either on Twitter or LinkedIn or our Facebook group. One of the things that happens is they either decide that they're going to leave a corporation, and they really have this entrepreneurial spirit, and they want to become an entrepreneur, do a startup, or many of them get suddenly downsized. And that's usually when I get a phone call or an email of like, hey, I know you've been doing this. I broke out of the corporate world in 2007. I took 2 of my colleagues with me, but I had a plan for that. I had a wonderful mentor and coach at Intel, Cecilia, and she walked. We met on a regular basis, and I told her, when I hit 50, my goal was, I had this plan when I was 40. 10 years from now, when I hit 50, I want to have that opportunity to go out and do my own thing and really give back, to work with small to medium-sized companies that, don't have those $10 million budgets like I was, fortunate to have at Intel. So I've got what I call the 7 Ps of becoming an entrepreneur. And I'll share them. These are in no particular order, although I think the first one is really important. So the first P is provisions or payments. And I talked about this, and when I'm coaching people that are making the transition or trying or considering the transition, the first thing I say to them is, that you really need to have 18 to 24 months of cash available to invest in yourself and your company, because you've come from, let's say you're making 120,000 a year in US dollars. Let's call it 10,000 a month just to make it easy. That, when you move into becoming an entrepreneur, all of a sudden that's going to stop, right? And each month that you're not working, you're essentially losing that $10,000. So you really need to be able to have whatever you're making times 18 per month or 24, because I had great coaching from one of my mentors, a gentleman by the name of Bill Daniels, and he said, most entrepreneurs or startups go out of business in that period of time because they don't have the stamina to last. And he said, if you're not willing to invest that kind of money, right, any money that comes in that period of time, and we found this out as well, we didn't get our first gigantic purchase order till 19 months, and we were burning all that cash. If you're not willing to invest that money up front, then you really want to ask yourself whether you want to consider being an entrepreneur. So that's the first thing you need to do. You need to have that most of the people that get suddenly downsized are not prepared for that. They have a couple months, and it's very, very difficult. And especially when you get to if you have 5 months, when you get to that 5th month, and someone I'm coaching at the moment only had about 5 months, and he's at the 6th month, so he's in panic mode and so forth. So my recommendation would be is you may actually need to go back and do the corporate thing until you can build up enough payments or provisions for yourself. So that's the first item. The second P is a product, right? That you need something that's unique and differentiated, kind of what I would call a shtick, kind of look at all your attributes, what you bring. One of the first things I do when I'm doing coaching for people who want to move into the entrepreneurial world is I ask them as an interview, tell me why I should hire you. And they go through the normal thing of, here's my education, here's my background, here's my years of experience, here's where my interests are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I ask them, once they're finished, I just ask them one critical question. Okay, so what would the next person tell me that's any different than what you told me? And usually the response is the same of like, well, they probably tell you something very similar. So you have to understand what really makes you unique that you can sell yourself as a product to someone else. And it's usually a combination of things. For me, my differentiator is, I am an executive coach, but I've come from, I have a substantial education background. I've worked in the corporate world, right? I have these different degrees. Many people will have those. What they usually don't have is I'm a technical person that's moved into the soft skills world, and that's a little bit rare, and that's what makes me unique. And then put on top of that all the research. I have a substantial amount of research that I've done. So those three pieces really, that's my unique selling proposition. So people need to think about themselves, what makes them unique, what combination of elements does that. So that's the second P, is the product. The third P is what I call presence. And presence is your social media, right? People need to find you. So we do posting. I do posting every morning to Twitter, which is now X. We have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube page. We do a lot of LinkedIn postings, whether it's postings or ebooks that I've written or articles, and it has to have that continuous stream. And there's lots of programs out there. We use something called Meet Edgar, and Meet Edgar is a wonderful social media tool that when you post, I can post everything instantaneously to all the platforms, right? So I don't have to go in individually. So I do my research in the morning. I usually get a nice RSS feed of a dozen or so articles. I read through the articles. If they're good, I'll post them, on leadership or management or conflict or coaching, whatever it is. And then I post those. So having that presence and being able to do that, whether you do it yourself or you hire someone, you need to be able to be there, because the search engines, that's the way they're going to find you. If you're not doing it, and people will say, why do I need to do social media? No one's ever called me and said, hey, I want to hire you from social media. Yeah, but when they're Googling you, right, if you're showing up on page 400, they're never going to find you. You want to show up closer to the top, preferably the first page. And if you have that presence, that's where the search engines are going to like you and put you up front. So that's the third one, which is presence. The next one is people. You need a network, right? So my example, my LinkedIn network's running about 22,000 people. And I keep them warm on a regular basis by sending new articles or connect with them. If they're having challenges, I try to interface with them. The key is that you need to evaluate what's your network like. And if you are considering being an entrepreneur and you are in the corporate world, start building your network now, right, of people, staying in touch with them on a regular basis. Because, ultimately, I would say, when we first started, probably 80% of the work that we got came through our network. People that we had worked with, they had known us, they had left Intel, gone to some other company, and they've said, hey, I saw the good work that you did there. Come and do that for my company. So that's the fourth one, which is people. The fifth P of the 7 is partner. And we partnered with a wonderful company called Vangel Consulting when we first started, and they had some offerings that we didn't have, and we had some offerings that they didn't have, and we shared our clients with them. And since they were in business for 30 years, they had a whole lot more clients than we did, and we got trained on their materials. We trained them on our materials, and then we shared. So when they had they did some wonderful programs on negotiation and the influence edge. And we did a lot of programs on leadership and facilitation and conflict. And they were very complementary. So when their clients needed one of ours, they would bring us in, and one of our clients needed them, we would bring them in. And it really helped kind of accelerate the process rather than trying to go out and get new clients all the time. So that was the 5: provisions, product, presence, people, and partner. The 6th one is publication. And what we found is that you need what all of the people that we interviewed before we started our consulting firm told us the same thing. You need a hard copy book, right? You need to have a book that shows that. So we ended up writing a book in our first year. It was called The Leader of Oz. We took the story of the Wizard of Oz and wrote a business parable about this company in Kansas that gets whisked away and dropped into Silicon Valley, and you have the wicked VP from the East and the wicked VP from the West. And the intention is we wanted to make something that was academically grounded. I wrote it with my business partner, Dr. Ali Lakhani, that was academically grounded, fun to read, and really told you kind of our methodology of really a servant leadership model of how to build great teams and sustain them. So we wrote that book. We're actually getting ready to do our 3rd printing of it. So it's been successful. And about 2 years ago, we did the audiobook. So anybody wants to listen to it, you can go get it off of Amazon, either in Kindle or hard copy or in Audible. So you need to have that. Having the ability to go to a CEO or an executive and hand them a hard copy book is invaluable. And I would say the way we got our first big purchase order to do a big leadership program for a Silicon Valley company was because we had a book, and I could hand it to the CEO. Most of them probably never read it. Just knowing that someone is a published author, and today anybody can be a published author. It's so easy to do. Most people don't know how easy it is, or never really do the effort. So that's the 6th one with this publication. And then the last item on the 7 Ps is persistence. You have to have determination and continue through difficulty, right? That you're going to get knocked down quite a bit. Things are not going to go the way you want. I remember when we had we used to meet in every several days on video conferencing, and kind of working, because when we started Magna Leadership, there was one of the people were in Sacramento, I was in Phoenix, the other one was in Portland. So we were essentially a virtual team back in 2008 or 2007 when we started, and that was a little bit unusual. And I remember having that 18-month meeting, and talking where we're there, and no big orders had come in. We got a bunch of little things, but it wasn't sustainable for us. And I just reminded them, it's an 18 to 24-month window. And sure enough, at 19 months, it came in, and from there, things were, every year's been better than the last. So you have to have that persistence, right? And what I would encourage people to consider is that don't do it alone. Go get a partner, a coach, pair with someone. And one of the things that people want to come to me and say, hey, can you help me coach you, or can you help coach me for this journey? And I said, I'm glad to do this. This is kind of what I'm going to charge you for it. And always the response is, oh, well, I don't have any money to give you because, I'm just starting out. And my question to them is, what would it be worth to you if I could get you a client 1 month sooner, right, than you normally get, right? So going back to that, $10,000 a month, if I could get it to you 1 month sooner, so your October, you actually have money coming in, what would that be worth to you, right? And if it's $10,000 or whatever we think we can bring in that much earlier, then you have to say, well, to get that 10,000, what would you spend, or 20,000, or whatever the number is? What would you invest to be able to do that? And then I'll work with you so that you have some kind of guarantee that I'll continue to work with you until we bring those clients in. So those are the 7 P's. I think probably the most critical one is the first one, which is the provisions or payments. Make sure you're well capitalized, because once you start thinking about and worrying about money, you're going to start doing, I found, because I've been coaching people for 15 years to do this, what I found is once that money runs out, you start making less than optimal decisions.
I understand. Thank you so much for sharing. The provision and payment piece for to start when you are still in corporate, maybe, and you make the decision, then you have to be provided, of course. Otherwise you continue working there. And my favorite is, of course, persistence, because it keeps you going. And also when you talked about the 18 to 24 months period, it is so important to hold the vision as well, and to have a workable plan. You talked about plans as well, and then to never give up, to keep going. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm so happy about our interview. Of course, I have a question about your own coaches. You talked about the importance to have coaches and mentors. Do you have coaches for yourself? You mentioned Cecilia, I think was her name in
Yes.
your Intel career. Yes. And what about now?
Yeah, so I have a coach right now. Jake is my current coach, and I am coaching several other people as well, some pro bono, and several of them more executives, and having the ability to meet. We meet on every other week, for a coaching session, and I get to share some challenges with him, and he helps me kind of work through that. And it's a good learning process for me. Hopefully it's a good learning process for him. And then a lot of the things I learn, I get to share with the other people that I'm coaching as clients as well. Hey, and Caroline, one of the things I forgot to mention is we had done a second book called Ready, Set, Get Hired. And what we did was, this was a process I had developed to help people go get jobs back in the corporate world if they're looking for a job. How to use LinkedIn in order to do that. And I'd love to just give a copy away to anyone that's listening. Can I do that?
Of course.
Yeah. So and you can put this URL. I created a URL for you in the show notes, but let me just tell you what it is. So if you go to https:// and then you type in Magna Leader, that's my company. It's MAGNA Leader, not leadership, magnaleader.co, not com, .co, .co, / and you put a J, which is just for you. What it'll do is it'll link you, it'll give you the PDF of the full book. And if you want to learn about how do you use LinkedIn in a way that we've proven to be very successful to get work, everything you need is in there, including all the scripts. So all the scripts are there as well. So that's my gift to anyone that's been tenacious enough to listen up to this point.
Oh, thank you so much. This is so generous. I feel blessed now by our interview. Of course, also for the audience, please use the secret link Dr. Kevin gave us. And what else? Please reach out. He's amazing. He shares his wisdom, knowledge, and information not many people have. And if they do have, they don't share. Maybe I don't know. So thank you for our interview. And now it's time for your last thoughts to the audience, please.
Well, the last thoughts to the audience is just do it, right? So just, a lot of people plan on, writing a book, plan on leaving corporate, plan on starting up a company, plan on making connections. Is just do it. You don't have to massively do it. You just have to do it very, very slow. And the key is if you are having a hard time getting started, is really go find someone that can coach you so that you can accelerate that. And if anyone is interested to have a session with me, one of the other things I offer is I'm glad to do a coaching session or bounce ideas off you with me at no cost, right? And my promise is I don't do any sales pitches, right? That if there's a good connection and I can be helpful and it makes business sense, then let's work together. And if not, I'll give you lots of resources that you can use on your own. So you can connect with me at kevin@magnaleadership.com. Go to our site. We have a coaching site called coachsultants.com. So that's my coaching site. There's lots of ways to reach me. I always feel like it's a privilege to have the opportunity to meet with people that listen to the different podcasts that I've been fortunate enough to be a guest on.
Wow, that was the best message. Thank you so much for sharing. Please reach out. Yes, really, I'm speechless, but I'm not because I have to close the interview now. Thank you so much. I'm happy we talked.
All right. Thank you, Caroline. It's been a pleasure.
And see you in the next episode.